Alongside Frankie Corrado. Frankie is a former player in this league. When you heard the day's news that the Oilers had waived Jack Campbell, what was your immediate thought?
I wasn't surprised. Something had to give with this team. Take a look at where they are in the standings. They're second last in the NHL. The only worst team is the San Jose Sharks, who have been terrible this year. And they've dug themselves such a hole now that they're going to have to play such good hockey down the stretch. It's going to be very difficult for them to make the playoffs. But they've already hit desperation mode. And that's the crazy part about this, Nude. They've hit desperation mode at the beginning of November. And the Edmonton Oilers have a massive hill to climb in order to get themselves to the playoffs. And Jack Campbell ultimately is the player who's going to be the fall guy for this. But the team hasn't been great in front of them. The goaltending hasn't been great. There's a lot of things at play here. Jack Campbell's sample size is big enough now. We know exactly what he is and what he has been in the NHL for a long time. The factor of the matter is a lot of the players in that dressing room need to be a lot better. But when the goaltending stands out the way it does in such a negative way, something had to change, and it was Jack Campbell.
Let's talk about the other players then. So what's the trickle-down effect when your supposed number one guy at the start of the season gets set down to the minors?
This is something where if you're in the dressing room, you just realize that one of your friends, one of your buddies that you go to war with every single day.
Somebody they like, by the way.
Exactly, that a lot of people like. His life is changing now. He's got to go down to Bakersfield, and you think, that could have been me. Like, there's a few players that it couldn't have been, but there's a lot of guys in that room that are probably thinking, I could have been that guy, but now Jack's got to do it. And so that catches your attention. And when you go through a moment like this or a stretch like this that the Oilers have gone through, there's a lot of players in that room that start thinking, when's something going to happen? Because something was going to happen, and this was the one, and Jack Campbell pays the price. And I don't blame the Edmonton Oilers, because if you're going to get AHL goaltending, you might as well get AHL goaltending from an AHL goaltender and take your chances and not have the massive cap hit on your books.
A lot of us were wondering, would Jay Woodcroft lose his job because of what's been going on? So far, he saved his job, and the Oilers as an organization are saying they think he still has that room. From a player standpoint, how do you watch from the outside looking in and say, now I realize he's lost the room?
I think Ryan Rishaug brings up a very good point about holding players accountable. There's something to be said for having that boundary and having that line and holding players accountable. There's also something to be said as a player, knowing that the coach has confidence in you. And there's a fine line there. As a player, I always wanted to know that, listen, I can make a mistake, I can get back out there. But Evan Bouchard, watching him, Ryan points out that video, he's made that mistake way too many times in the past. So it's not just a one-time thing for him. And this group has gone through...
What choices does Woodcroft have? He can't look down the bench and say, oh, I got three other options I can ice instead.
This is the reality of the cap world, where you have who you have and you got to go with the players you have. But what's this team going to do with a new coach? This group has had 4 coaches since 2015. One was an interim coach, mind you. But what's a new coach coming in going to do? He can't change the fact that the goaltenders can't make a save. Can't change the fact that Matthias Ekholm hasn't been great, a player who was supposed to stabilize the blue line. And he can't change the fact that the star players are playing average or just fine. This team was designed for the star players to be star players, not to be just average. When they're average, this team is well below average, Gino.
Reading between the lines, you don't sound really optimistic. Not sure many expected this. 11 games into the new season, the Oilers are, as you mentioned, 31st in the league. That's 18 points behind Vegas for top spot in the Pacific.